Chapter 22. Is anybody out there? July 8th, 1998. Raccoon City. The receiver was slick with sweat. After being on hold for 20 minutes, his ear burnt as if he was holding a steam iron instead of a telephone. His stomach boiled and sent hot metal into his mouth. And yet, Lawrence was shivering as if he had stepped into a December blizzard, wearing nothing but his breeches. "You disappoint me, Jenkins. Our organization pays you handsomely to handle such situations. Your lack of planning and leadership reflects poorly on my decision to advance you to your current office." He could feel ice crystals forming on the earpiece. Sweat rolled out of his hairline and sizzled on his cheeks. "I've already told you, Wesker. I can't keep a lid on this much longer." His fingers were frostbitten tight around the receiver. They shook. "This BOW's loose. A cop got attacked by a carrier. She got a few shots off on an MA-39. This situation is not I do not care." The mechanoid voice on the other line stopped Lawrence short. He might as well have been arguing with a coffee maker. "I have been in contact with Irons. He assures me that the situation is under control. I am assuming that you have deployed the URC security detail to contain the freed subjects." Lawrence swallowed. He tasted vinegar and soap. "No, I can't. The head of security's been..." Wesker's sigh sounded like a northern wind through an open window. "And why exactly is that?" Lawrence grit his teeth, felt his insides clench as anger simmered. "Would you let me finish?" A pause. "Go ahead." "Vladimir knows." No response on the other end. "He knows something's up. Somehow he found out. Someone leaked something. He's got Duval flying out of the Paris branch." 15 seconds crawled past. His stomach burbled. Footfalls echoed down the hall. "Are you still there?" A click of the tongue. "Of course I'm still here." "Duval will be pretty suspicious if the security team is stomping a searchlight through the woods." "I appreciate your spelling that out for me." Sarcasm, Wesker's only form of humor. "And he'll check the security team's log. Any recent activity will definitely clue him in." "Yes, it certainly would." "So, what do you suggest?" Another lengthy pause. "When does Duval arrive?" Lawrence glanced, first to the dinner plate-sized circle of unstained wall, where an electric clock had once tolled the countdown to his ruination, and then to his gold Bulova. Buzz, tick. Sergei knows. "We have just over 2 hours." More silence. "He will want to meet with the facility directors." "No doubt," Lawrence agreed. "Annette Birkin will not be a problem. Unless she's the one who tipped off Vladimir." "I can assure you that it was not Annette." Wesker's voice colored with just the faintest bit of irritation. "Or her husband." "Fine." Lawrence found himself nodding. "The Birkins are on our side. He'll want to meet with Sarton, though. That will be a problem." More silence. "Perhaps Dr. Sarton has been preoccupied due to a development in the Tyrant program. I'm sure a conference on the sat phone could be arranged, though." "Preoccupied due to a development in the Tyrant program. You have no idea how right you are, Albert." Lawrence shrugged. Sarton had a pretty distinctive voice. "Duval is a fool. What if he wants to visit the facility?" He could hear Wesker's sigh through the phone. Could imagine a winter fog steaming from the earpiece. "You are a competent man, Jenkins. I have no doubt that you are clever enough to divert him. Lawrence took a deep breath and arched his back. Was that a compliment? Or are you just washing your hands of this? No response. I will be returning from Montana shortly. Wesker's words were overly spaced, spoken with the accurate English of an educated foreigner, or an automatic telephone directory. Keep Duval occupied. And what about the cop? The one who got attacked? There's also a canoeist who was found on Victory Lake and... I know about the canoeist. Get rid of them both. Lawrence let out a breath and thumped the cantaloupe-sized knot out of his chest. But I will remind you one last time. You are responsible for keeping these matters quiet. Work with Irons. Control the information being released. If this situation escalates any further, I will find no one other than this office at fault. Are we clear? Lawrence managed to choke out a yes. Are we crystal? He blinked. Pardon me? A click of the tongue. Are we crystal clear? He found himself nodding. It was stupid. It wasn't as if Wesker could see him. Yes, we're crystal clear. Fantastic. Lawrence could picture Wesker's mirthless grin, gleaming like the edge of a guillotine. And the line went dead, leaving Lawrence with the catastrophe that was the outbreak, the catastrophe that was his rebellious nervous system. He managed to thaw his fingers enough to relinquish the telephone, returned it to its cradle, and slumped back with eyes closed. BOWs were loose, attacking civilians in the Arklay forest. Eyes open, he held steady long enough to check the time. Buzz, tick. You have 2 hours until Duval arrives. Head on his desk, there was battery acid in his mouth and nasal cavity. His hands clawed against his thighs. Duval was on the way. Sergei knows. He swallowed and wrapped his arms around his midsection. His stomach and esophagus pumped like a bellows stoking a wood furnace. He couldn't breathe. Get rid of them both. Groaning, he snatched the wastebasket at his feet. The edge had just made contact with his chin before a steady stream of vomit filled the bottom inch. He swallowed, took a breath that burned with chlorine, soap, and salt, and vomited once more. Teary eyes stared at the foul stew of pink throw-up. A raspberry swirl of dark blood curled around a floating post-it note. Disgusted, he dropped the garbage can with a tinny clank and mopped around his mouth. He had stubble that could grate cheese, and tufts of Kleenex clung to him like a tiny cotton ball beard. Just breathe. Just breathe. He tottered to his feet, lurched to the office windows, and squinted at the streets below. Grey, early morning drizzle bleached the vivacity of the morning commute, turning the scene into a city of ashes filled with the walking dead. He rested his head on the cold window glass. Miles away, the tainted Arklay facility spread its disease like a locust horde, and Albert Wesker was doing nothing to stop the infestation. Get rid of them both. Cold, unreadable Wesker. The man belonged in a leather greatcoat and hobnailed jackboots. His Teutonic countenance only served to accentuate the image of an impersonal Waffen-SS Obersturmführer, a creature capable of ordering mass murder with the casual disinterest of a man ordering coffee. Lawrence took a deep breath. He was no such creature. He glanced at his hands. They shook like an epileptic's, but he remained unbloodied up until this point. What would happen if he disobeyed Wesker? You know what would happen. Was his life worth more than that of a police officer and Jeremy Houseman? Wesker would also kill Sharon and Julie. Wesker would kill Julie, who was 4 months pregnant with her first child, his first grandchild. He wiped his forehead along the cool window. Buzz, tick. You have to decide. Lawrence closed his eyes. Raccoon City's pulse reverberated against the glass. God help me. Page A2, Raccoon Herald, July 9th, 1998. Victory Lake mystery man, in critical condition following heart attack. Ben Bertolucci. Reports from Raccoon City Hospital indicate that the man discovered unresponsive on the shores, identified as Hillsborough resident Jeremy Houseman, had suffered acute respiratory depression and heart failure early yesterday evening and remains in critical condition. Houseman's attending physician, Dr. George Hamilton, was reported as being, at this point, uncertain what had caused Houseman's sudden onset of symptoms, but stresses that the condition has stabilized and a battery of tests are being performed in order to positively identify